Okay, so this is a scene that I've just put together. A little sphere flying around a few other little spheres, and this is using the new 2.5D camera in Cavalry, which you can play with if you've got access to the beta. Yeah, it's still a work in progress, but we have been teased a few other features such as depth of field and fog. They haven't made it through just yet. So yeah, I've just faked the depth of field in this one. So I'm just going to run through and see how we go. Okay, so if you've created your shape, just click on this little box here, and you've also got to add a camera to your scene. And then if we just click on this camera button up here, you can now move around. It's a bit tricky to see what you're doing. So you can just turn on the 3D grid, and I'll just make it a bit easier for you guys to see. And I'm just using Control as a bit of a track around, and Alt to move the whole thing around. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So if we click into our camera settings here, we've got two options. We've got Look At and Simple. The setup that I have done is going to be using the simple camera technique. I've also got our zoom here as well, and I'll just be setting a few basic keyframes for that later on. Let's just start from scratch. So if I just click and hold Alt and Shift, I can create some circles based on where my cursor is. So I'm just going to place these randomly, and at the moment the duplicator is not 3D, so we're going to have to do a bit of manual tweaking. Okay, so for this now I'm just going to use my pen tool, and I've got my stabilizer on set to about 60, and I'm just going to fly this pencil around and see how we go. And I've also got my close distance set to 36 as well. So I'm just going to rename this path, and I'll just make that easy for you all to see as well. I'm just going to come through and group all of these, and I might as well just create my other little circle here as well. I'll just make it a bright tacky green. Okay, so on my tacky green position, I'm just going to click right here and just going to add a pathfinder, and we're just going to add our path, and that is our motion flying around. Okay, so for this here, I might just add a frame so that it can continue moving around by itself, but I felt like this speed's just a bit too much. If we just click the 2.5D box here, it's going to apply that to every shape in our group. And then I'm just going to create my camera as well. And what I can do here is I can just come through and I can just pull these back and forth. Okay, and I'm just, this is pretty much what I was doing. It might, and make sure you click on that and you're pulling the right one. And for the ones that were pushed back a little bit, I added a blur. I just added a filter, just blur. Nothing too exciting. Nothing too exciting at all, but yeah, you can just kind of get the general idea. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm just going to quickly show you what the motion is like if I track the camera straight to the shape. So we've got our camera in, and I'm just going to bring in the ellipse shape as well, and I'm just going to pull the X and the Y individually, because if I bring the whole thing, then you're going to have issues with the Z depth of it as well. So I'm just going to bring these down here. And I'm just going to change this to simple. And path is also 3D. And make sure you click the 2.5D button for both the path and the ellipse shape. So as you can see here, everything is moving around this green circle, which is just staying quite annoyingly in the middle of our screen. This is not very exciting camera movement, and as you can see in this one, the camera, the sphere here kind of darts to all different parts of the screen, and it just, like, I don't know, just creates a slightly more engaging motion. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a dummy object to track this, but with a bit of a spring on it, and then we're going to track that dummy object. So just bear with me. I'm just going to remove these two. I'm going to use a star, and I'm just going to pull the position, and we'll put that in position, and we'll just change the color so you know what's going on. And now if I click on deformer, I can click on spring. If I hit play, you can see here that this red star has a bit of delay to it. So I'm just going to drop this down to 0.35. And yeah, you can see that it kind of follows the circle around, and it's got a bit of a delay there, and it just kind of smooths out the motion. And I'm just going to come in here and add a bounding box so we can pull the motion from that star, and bring our camera back in, and I'm just going to pull these down here, and that way we can just kind of move in and out, but we'll still have our X and our Y tracking that star. So yeah, so now you can just see how it's, I mean, in this instance it's quite subtle, but it's still quite good to see. And obviously we can just hide the star there, and it tracks around quite nicely. We've got a bit of a glitch there, a bit of a circle jumping out of nowhere, so we'll just go through and fix it up later on as well. I'm going to turn off this path, and I'm going to add a trail. Bring this down to 10, so it's just going to be 10 frames. And also turn the 3D on, and jump in here and change it to something that's not too offensive. And it almost looks like it's kind of swimming through, which is quite cool. It's quite a nice effect. It's also cool to think that thus far we have 0 keyframes. So it's quite a, yeah, it's this little setup here, it's been quite easy. Okay, so I've just shrunken down that trail. This is a bit of a funny way of doing things, but you'll get over it. I'm just going to add a submesh on here, and in our fill, I'll turn that on. And then I'm just going to add a gradient shader. Change our gradient shader to radial gradient. And I'm just going to upload the file probably to Discord, so you can see what kind of settings I had on this front. So yeah, just going through and tweaking some of those settings. And And I'm just going to come back in here as well and add another shader. Again, it's just going to be there, and I'm going to change this to screen. Yeah, actually that's close enough to what I was doing before. So I'm going to leave it. Oh, I'm actually happy that that's not, it's not the worst. Not the best, not the worst. The gradient tools in Cavalry are really cool. So be sure to just have a bit of a play around with them and explore what you can do. This is just a bit of a funny way of doing it. It does add a little bit of variation, but it's not really something I do often. Cool. And that's pretty much the animation. Yeah, I hope that was kind of helpful and handy to see. There is the option obviously to come in here and we can zoom in, so we can keyframe that obviously and see how we go. And if I wanted to, I can just duplicate this and I can just create new cameras, and whatever camera is on top, it's going to cut to that camera or jump to that camera. So I'll just do one more, and it's going to jump. So yeah, thanks for following along. I hope you learned a thing or two, and looking forward to seeing what you create. Cheers.